I stood quietly in the center of the completely barren living room. The house I'd called home for 17 long years looked like an abandoned warehouse. The premium smart lighting system, gone. The custom cedar closet organizers, torn out of the dry wall. The lush backyard koi pond, filled out with dry dirt. The landlord's greedy, arrogant son was about to walk into a house that looked absolutely nothing like the luxury property he thought he was selling. And the best part? I was doing exactly what the judge ordered. My family and I moved into this 5-bedroom, 3,200 square foot house back in 2008. It was a chaotic period in my life. I was going through a brutal divorce. At $1,600 a month, the rent was a lifeline. Over the years, I raised my 3 kids within these walls. The original owner was a retired gentleman. He was kind, quiet, and he never once raised the rent. Because I run my own business and I'm pretty handy, I never bothered the old man with maintenance calls. Instead, I upgraded the place myself. I built a massive tool shed in the yard. I wired a complete smart home system. I dug a 300-gallon pond for goldfish. I even replaced his failing appliances with high-end models. Every single time I asked, the old man happily gave me his blessing to improve the property. It was a mutual respect. Fast forward 17 years to early 2024. The old man sadly passed away. His son inherited the property, and the nightmare began immediately. A week after the funeral, the son showed up unannounced. He gave me formal notice of his right to inspect the house. I let him in, but he immediately started acting like a prison warden. He marched through my home, opening my personal drawers, digging through my family's belongings. It was a massive violation of privacy, and legally, he had zero right to do it. When I stepped in to stop him, his face twisted with anger. He glared at me. As he walked out the front door, he shoved a piece of paper into my hand. It was a rent increase notice. He was hiking my rent from $1,600 to $4,000 a month. That was nearly $1,000 over current market value. I would have gladly paid a reasonable increase to stay in my home. But this wasn't business. This was extortion. I sat down at my kitchen table and pulled out my original month-to-month lease. It clearly stated that any rent increase required a full 3 months' notice. I sent him an email pointing out the exact clause. And then, I gave him my official notice. I would be moving out at the exact end of those 3 months. The son panicked. He wanted me out instantly so he could cash in. A few days later, a process server knocked on my door and handed me an eviction notice. But there was a problem. The lease also required 3 months' notice for an eviction without cause. So, the son decided to invent a cause. He filed court documents claiming I had made unauthorized modifications to the property. His evidence: the back door. Years ago, I had carefully installed a doggy door for my pets. What this arrogant kid didn't know was that I still had the original solid door sitting safely in my garage. Not to mention, I had his father's explicit, documented permission for the upgrade. We ended up in court. Despite my rock-solid evidence, the judge made a ruling that felt like a punch to the gut. He ordered me to move out within 30 days, or he would grant the son an official eviction on my record. But then, the judge added one very specific, fatal clause to the order. He looked down from the bench and explicitly stated, "All modifications must be restored to the original." And right there, the seed of malicious compliance was planted. The son smirked at me from across the courtroom. He thought he'd just secured a fully renovated, upgraded luxury home for absolutely nothing. He was already spending the money in his head. He had no idea what kind of storm was coming for him. Over the next 30 days, I went to work. The smart house additions, ripped out of the electrical boxes, the custom tool shed in the yard, unbolted and sold to a guy with a flatbed truck. The beautiful goldfish pond, drained, dismantled, and filled to the brim with dirt. I systematically tore out every single custom closet organizer I had built. The heavy-duty garage storage system was disassembled and packed into my moving truck. The stainless steel, updated appliances were removed and replaced with the cheapest, most basic models I could physically find. Finally, I walked into the garage, retrieved the original back door, dusted it off, and rehung it on its hinges. Every single update I made over 17 years was violently reversed. And then, I handed over the keys. When the son confidently walked through the front door for his final walkthrough and saw the barren, early 2000s time capsule, the color drained from his face. He completely lost his mind. He immediately sued me. His lawyer confidently strode into court, citing a property law stating that any changes to a property become a permanent fixture, making it illegal to remove them when vacating. He demanded tens of thousands of dollars in damages for destroying his asset. My lawyer sat calmly beside me. He didn't even argue. He simply pulled out the official transcript from our previous hearing. He read the former judge's exact order aloud. All modifications must be restored to the original. Then came the kill shot. Because I've been entirely self-employed for 29 years, I am meticulous with paperwork. I handed the judge a massive, heavy folder containing every single receipt from the last 17 years. I proved exactly what I had purchased. I proved exactly what I had installed. And I proved I was simply following a direct legal court order by returning the property to its exact 2008 condition. The judge looked at the receipts, looked at the son, and threw out the lawsuit immediately. To add maximum insult to injury, the judge ordered the son to pay every single cent of my legal fees. I thought that was the end of the story. I got my revenge. I moved into a beautiful new place. But karma wasn't quite finished with this guy. A few months later, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. When I answered, it was the son's sister. Some of my mail hadn't been forwarded properly, and she was tracking me down to make sure I received it. As we talked, she started asking cautious questions about why I left so suddenly. That's when the son's massive, tangled web of lies finally came crashing down. She revealed that the house wasn't just inherited by the son. It was inherited equally by all 4 siblings. Her brother had lied to his entire family. He sat them down after the funeral and told them the house had severe negative equity and that the bank would likely take it. The truth? Their father had completely paid off the mortgage years ago. The house was worth a massive $700,000. The son had concocted a desperate, greedy scheme. He raised my rent to force me out quickly so he could secure a private, under-the-table deal with a massive corporate rental company. He planned to sell the house secretly, forge some documents, and pocket every single cent of the $700,000. The problem? He had already shown the corporate buyers the house while I was still living there, while it was still filled with my premium upgrades. Their massive cash offer specifically included all the smart home features, the custom shed, the landscaping, and the luxury organizers. When the corporate buyers arrived for their final inspection and saw the empty shell I left behind, they immediately backed out of the deal. The son couldn't afford to replace the tens of thousands of dollars in upgrades I had legally taken with me. So, the corporate buyers took him to court for violating the terms of the sale. And here is the absolute best part of the entire debacle. Because the house was legally owned by all their siblings in the trust, all 4 of their names were listed identically on the lawsuit. That is exactly how his family received legally binding documents in the mail, revealing that their brother was trying to steal their entire inheritance. Caught in a massive lie and facing serious legal consequences from both the corporation and his own blood, the son was backed into a corner. His siblings seized control of the property and forced the sale of the house in its stripped-down, basic condition. It eventually sold for $550,000. But the son didn't get a single penny. His 3 siblings forced him to surrender his entire 25% share of the proceeds. It was the only way they agreed not to press brutal, federal fraud charges against him. I walked away with my dignity, my smart home system, and my sanity intact. He walked away with absolutely nothing, staring at the ashes of his own greed.